Welcome back, students, to the next lecture of our series. In this lecture, I am going to discuss about objective 1 from H.C. Verma, Newton's laws of motion. Let us go. Let us see this first question. A body of weight W1 is suspended from the ceiling of a room through a chain of weight W2. The ceiling pulls the chain by a force. A body of weight W1 is suspended from the ceiling through a chain of weight W2. There is a chain. This chain's weight is W2. The ceiling pulls the chain by a force. So this ceiling is pulling the chain by a force. Consider the tension on the chain here to be T. Suppose T1. There will be a different tension here because if the chain is massless, if the chain is not having any mass, then the chain will not have any weight. If the chain is ideal, it's an interesting observation to be noted here. If the chain is ideal, no mass, massless or inextensible. Here the chain mass is given. If no mass is there and it is inextensible, so the tension is same throughout the chain. But here the chain is also having weight. Weight means it's also having mass. So there will be different tension at different points. Now we need to understand what is the tension at exactly the point below the ceiling, so that we can understand with how much force the ceiling is the ceiling pulls the chain by a force. Let us see here. Let us draw a free body diagram here for this one. The chain at the topmost point. There will be tension in the topmost point, and there will be W2 in the downward direction, that is T1, and there will also be a tension here, that is T2, which is pulling the chain downwards. Always tension can pull, it cannot push. You need to get the fundamental right. Tension can only pull, not push. Now how can we solve this question? So now the chain is at rest. That means T1 should be equal to T2 plus W2. That is one equation. Now T2 is the tension at this point. Let us draw the free body diagram for weight 1. That is what? W1 is downwards. T2. That same tension at this point is pulling this weight also and pulling the chain also. It pulls weight in the upward direction. It pulls chain in the downward direction. The same T2 will be there in both the diagrams. T2, the block is at rest, the body T2 is equal to W1. So if we substitute this equation in equation 1, what will we get? The T1 is equal to T2 plus W2, that is equal to W1 plus W2. So now we got the answer as W1 plus W2. If we are clear with free body diagram, then we'll be able to solve this question very easily. And there's another way to solve it. If we entirely consider this as system, what is the weight with which gravity is attracting this system? W1 plus W2. So then the same in other procedure also the answer is the same thing. Let us go to the next question. When a horse pulls a cart, the force that helps the horse to move forward is the force exerted by. See this question very carefully. See this diagram, students. When a horse is pulling the cart, the force that helps the horse to move forward is the force exerted by. You see when the horse is pulling the cart, there will be we'll see the free body diagram here. So on this horse, there will be a force exerted by this rod in the backward direction. Here the force is given as F2. That force is force F2. I'll write here. Force exerted by the rod on horse backwards. There is F1 here. The force exerted by rod. Force exerted by rod on the cart. We think that actually a horse is pulling the cart, or horse is pulled by when a horse pulls a cart, the force that helps the horse to move forward is the force exerted by. We think number of things, but if you are able to solve the free body diagram carefully, this question can be solved very easily. There will be two forces, this F1 and F2. Force exerted by the rod on the horse and force exerted by the cart by the rod. Exerted on the cart by the rod. You see, when the cart is tending to go to the right direction, the wheel wants to slide in the right side direction. So there will be a friction which is actually acting in the backward direction, so because of which that wheel rotates. That how the wheel rotates, that you will be able to find in the coming rotational chapter. Now what happens? Actually this friction is pulling it backward. These two forces are equal. Force exerted by the rod on the cart and force exerted by the cart on the rod. Both are equal. But what actually is making the horse move ahead? You see, when the horse is exerting, and another force also you'll see, there will be a entire system weight acting downwards and there will be normal acting upwards. That is balancing, because the system is not moving up and downwards. But you see the horse here, the horse exerts a force on the ground and the ground tries to exert the force revert back. If the horse pushes the ground, ground pushes the horse with the same force. So that force actually drives the cart, the horse going ahead. So here the answer is what? The cart on the horse? No. The ground on the horse? Yes. Ground on the cart? No. Ground on the cart is actually exerting friction and friction is going backwards. The horse on the ground? No. Horse on the ground will be the force exerted by the horse on the ground will be responsible for ground motion. Ground will be at rest. The ground on the horse is responsible for the motion of the horse ahead. So let us go to the next question. So, see the third question. It is similar to the previous questions. Here also we think a car accelerates on a horizontal road due to the force exerted by the engine of the car, the driver of the car, the earth, the road. Be careful here. Similarly, like the previous question, the driver of the car, no, because for the car, I am drawing the car diagram here. So when engine actually gives a torque to the wheels, so that the wheels tend to rotate in this direction. When the wheel is tending to rotate in this direction, actually the friction will try to oppose this tendency to move in left direction. The friction will be in the forward direction, and this friction is provided by the road. So the car is accelerating, engine is responsible for rotating the wheel, and the wheel tends to slip towards the left direction when it is getting rotated. So when the wheel is slipping towards left, there will be friction towards the right, which is actually responsible for the car to move in the forward direction, or the car to get accelerated. You might get a doubt. What does this engine do? Suppose in case the road is not having friction, just you kept the car on the road, and engine starts, just it rotates here, it slips, it slides, that's it. It will not move ahead. It just moves on a frictionless surface like this. You just try to walk on frictionless surface, you cannot walk. You can also walk only due to friction on the road. Friction given by the road on you, on your feet, to be precise. You have to be careful in understanding these questions. Sometimes in NEET and other medical exams, this kind of questions will be asked. Let us go to this next question. See this question. A block of mass 10 kg is suspended through two light spring balances as shown in the figure. My dear students, in this topic, if you want to solve the questions easily, one important aspect that you need to learn is how to draw free body diagrams. And here, from this question, you will learn one important point here. First, let me draw a free body diagram to get a more better picture of the same question. A block of mass 10 kg is suspended through two light spring balances as shown in the figure. The options are, both the scales will read 10 kg, both the scales will read 5 kg, the upper scale will read 10 kg and the lower will 0. The readings may be anything, but the sum will be 10 kg. You don't try to solve this question just by your intuition or your brain answers. How your brain answers. You need to be careful in drawing a free body diagram and getting the clarity. I'm redrawing the diagram here. There is a spring balance. There's another spring balance. There's a block of 10 kg. So actually, you need to understand what will be the reading in a spring balance. Spring balance will be calibrated, my dear students. You need to know this point. Spring balance will be calibrated. How will it be calibrated? Suppose there is 10 kg mass is tied to the spring balance. In common balance, we measure mass, but in spring balance we measure weight, because it will give you the force with which the gravity is pulling the block. Why? So suppose a spring balance is there and 10 kg is tied here. Here there will be a tension exerted by this string T. I'll try to draw the free body diagram. 10 kg, there will be 10Z downwards, tension upwards. The same tension will try to pull the spring balance. If I draw a free body diagram, the same tension will try to pull the spring balance, and this the spring gets extended with x distance. So, and the spring force will be upward direction, because spring gets expanded because of the tension downwards. The same tension acting two ways. It pulls the spring also, it pulls the block also. So this kx should be equal to t. Why? Because the system should be in equilibrium. Then only the reading happens. First the reading gets fluctuated, then it will come to a equilibrium point. That is actual reading. For in equilibrium position, the net force should be 0. So kx should be equal to t. So actually, this x is calibrated in such a way, for a given kx force, suppose that kx force is here, in this case t is equal to 10z, then kx is equal to t, then kx is equal to 10z, that is 10 into 9.8, that is 98 Newton. How the spring balance is calibrated? Divided by g, that is 9.8. So answer is given as 10 will be the 10 kg force will be the given reading, but actually what it is calculating? 10g weight. How it is calibrated? 10z by z. Like this, for 98 newtons, it will show 10 kg force as a spring balance reading. So if someone asks you if weight that spring balance is balancing is suppose 100 newtons, if they ask you what is the reading, 100 by g, the g at that place if you type, then you will get the reading given by spring balance. Hope you are clear with the spring balance reading. Then in this case, if I draw the free body diagram, the springs, entire two springs should be in equilibrium, because they should not be oscillating again and again. If they should be in equilibrium, the entire force should be same. If forces are different, the spring balance also wants to get accelerated. So these are ideal springs. The force should be equal. The force should be equal here. Tension is equal to kx. Tension is equal to 10z on this block. So the same tension should balance here by kx. T is equal to k1 x1. That k in this spring, the force will be in the upward direction. K2 x2 is equal to the tension. So for the spring balance to be in equilibrium, this both k1 and x2 and k2 x2 should be equal. So you remember this fundamental principle, my dear students. Whenever springs are connected in series, force is same. This is important fundamental, same throughout the springs. K1 x1 is equal to K2 x2. So in the similar way, here the readings will be what? K1 x1 by g is a reading in the spring balance 1. K2 x2 by z is a reading in the spring balance 2. So K1 x1 is equal to K2 x2. That means what? K1 x1 by g is equal to K2 x2 by g. That means the reading in both the springs is same. What is that same? That is equal to T. T is what? 10 into g divided by g. That is what? 10 kg. So both the scales will read. What is the answer? Both the scales will read 10 kg. The tension here is 10z. That is K1 x1 is equal to K2 x2 is equal to 10z. The reading will be the 10z divided by g. So the answer will be that 10 kg is the actual reading here. So this is an interesting question to be noted. Let us go to the next question. A block of mass m is placed on a smooth inclined plane of inclination theta with the horizontal. The force exerted by the plane on the block has a magnitude. So whenever this kind of questions come, try to draw the free body diagram. You will be able to solve these questions very easily. There is an inclined plane, smooth inclined plane of inclination theta with the horizontal. The force exerted by the plane on the block is, there is a block here. Try to draw the free body diagram on the block. If you say the block like this, there will be a force on the block mg. This will be 90 minus theta, because this is theta, this is 90 minus theta. Then there will be force along the inclined plane, that is mg cos of 90 minus theta. Cos 90 minus theta is what? That is equal to mg sin theta along the plane. This is a very standard result. A number of times this result will be used in your problems, but be careful to understand what are the angles given in the question. Then there will be a component in this direction, that is mg. This is 90 minus theta, this will become theta. This will become mg cos theta. So now, because the block is exerting mg cos theta force on the inclined plane, the inclined plane will also exert a normal reaction, which is actually whenever two surfaces are in contact, there will be a normal contact force acting perpendicular to both the surfaces, which actually pushes. So the surface pushes here, the normal reaction. Now this is the free body diagram. This is the free body diagram. What is the block getting accelerated? Perpendicular to the plane. If you take the plane, this is to be your x-axis. Is there any acceleration in this direction? No, the block is at rest in that direction. That means if the block is in equilibrium in that direction, the net force should be equal. What is the net force here? N is in the upward direction minus mg cos theta in the downward direction. That should be equal to 0. That means N is equal to mg cos theta. The force with which the incline is actually pushing the block is nothing but that normal reaction, that is equal to mg cos theta. Let us go to the next question. Let us see this question, students. Block of mass m is placed on a smooth wedge of inclination theta. Diagram is similar to the previous question. Inclination theta, block of mass m. The whole system is accelerated horizontally so that block does not slip on the wedge. First thing, the whole system is accelerated horizontally so the block does not slip on the wedge. First we need to find out what is the acceleration with which the block should be wedge should be accelerated so that the block will not fall. It's on a smooth wedge. So you see here, if you for any question, my dear students, here you need to find out free body diagram, then only your problems becomes easy. Should not slip. So what is a free body diagram? There will be mg along the incline, there will be mg sin theta. You see there will be a normal force in this direction. In which direction block should be accelerated? Actually the block should be accelerated in this direction so that there will be a pseudo force acting on this block in the right direction. So there's a chance of the block not getting slipped. So I'll try to make it simple here in this diagram. Just to solve a problem I am making it simple. This is normal reaction. There will be if block is accelerated with a acceleration in left direction, there will be a pseudo force ma acting on this block in the right direction. So you see, this normal has two components. If this is theta, you try to analyze. This is 90 minus theta. This is 90 minus theta. So then, if this is 90 minus theta, this will be 90 minus theta, and this will become theta because this is perpendicular. Normal reaction will be perpendicular. This is n cos theta Why? Because I am resolving so that the block to make the block at rest, the net force on the block in upward and downward direction, horizontal direction should be 0. And you can resolve along the plane also. To make it simple, I am resolving along the in normal xy axis in this diagram. What will be the diagram here? This will be n sin theta, that will be n cos theta. So n cos theta, this is a very standard question. N cos theta is equal to mg, n sin theta is equal to ma. Why? Because the net horizontal force should be equal to net vertical force. So to make the block at rest with respect to the wedge. So if we divide this, I'll get tan theta is equal to a by g. So that acceleration is g tan theta. So this is an important conclusion. You need to understand the acceleration with the number of NEET exams. It was asked what is the acceleration with which the wedge should be accelerated so that the block will be at rest on this smooth plane. So acceleration will be g tan theta. If you know this, so can we solve what is the normal reaction? So from the diagram, from these two equations, a equal to g tan theta, what is normal here? What is the normal reaction? So n squaring and adding on both sides. N square into sin square theta plus cos square theta is equal to m into a square plus m square into a square plus g square. What is n here? Sin square theta plus cos square theta is 1. N is equal to m into root over a square plus g square. But we know a is equal to g tan theta because we don't know the information about a. We have to write in terms of g and theta. M into root over a is g tan theta. That means g square tan square theta plus g square. That is equal to m. G squaring, when g square is common, square and root will be cancelled. Mg into root over 1 plus tan square theta. What is 1 plus tan square theta? Secant square theta. Secant square theta square and root cancel. That means mg secant theta. That is nothing but mg secant theta can also be written as mg by cos theta. So normal reaction is nothing but mg by cos theta in terms of theta and acceleration due to gravity. Otherwise, we can write it as n is equal to m into root over a square plus g square if acceleration is known. Let us go to the next question. Rotation of the earth. Suppose the earth suddenly stops attracting objects placed near its surface. A person standing on the surface of the earth will. You see this question carefully because number of places the solution to this question is given wrong. You need to be very careful in solving this question. Neglect the effect of rotation of the earth. Okay, because why this point is given? In gravitation, in future when you are studying gravitation topic, you will find out that there will be a change in net acceleration due to gravity g at equator and at poles because of the effect of Earth's rotation about itself. Why? Because there will be pseudo force on it, so which will tweak the result to some extent, g minus r omega square cos square theta. So that result we will study in gravitation. So you need to neglect that r omega square whatever cos square theta is there. Because of the earth rotation there will be change in z that should be neglected with respect to the question given here. Suppose the earth suddenly stops attracting objects placed. That means earth not at all attracting the objects. Suddenly stop. You are sitting here. Earth suddenly stop. And whatever the earth is rotating, due to that there will be a component of gravitation which is actually not exactly equal to g. Net will be g minus something, but due to the effect of the rotation. But you neglect this value because you don't know anything about gravitation here. You neglect this value. So now this g is suddenly vanished. Earth stopped rotating. Earth stopped attracting you. What will happen to you? Will you fly away? Till now Earth is attracting with you mg. as far as we knew, there will be an effect of rotation. You neglect it, mg, and earth will push this man with n. Earth will attract this boy with mg, so mg will be the force on this boy, and earth will push. When the boy is standing on the floor, that will push the boy with a normal direction n. When the boy is at rest, that n should be equal to mg. For a simple case, n equal to mg. But now you understand, if suddenly mg vanishes, so the boy will feel that boy should go upwards, the boy should fly away, because this normal direction is mg. But my dear student, understand this fundamental point here. Normal reaction is a self-adjusting force. Suppose you keep a block here 10 kg, there will be 10 g downwards, normal is equal to 10 g. But suppose if you keep another 5 kg block, suddenly this, if you solve the free body diagram, you will find out n will become 15 g. If you add another 3 kg here, n will become 18 g. So this actual normal reaction will get adjusted to the required amount with which you are increasing. In the similar way, suddenly with this mg vanishes, due to the inertia, the boy tends to be at rest in the same position, and normal reaction also will become 0. Just the boy is just slightly standing on the ground without any change due to the inertia. So what is the answer? Fly up, fly along a tangent to that surface, remain standing, slip along the surface. What will be the answer? Remain standing. Due to inertia, and also normal reaction will get adjusted to 0 after the earth stops attracting it. Let us, wonderful question. This is a wonderful question. It will generally confuse the students. Let us go to the next question. 3 rigid rods are joined to form an equilateral triangle. Let us see this question. 3 rigid rods are joined to form an equilateral triangle. ABC of side 1 meter. Okay. 3 particles carrying charges 20 microcoulombs each are attached to the vertices of the triangle. 20 microcoulombs here, 20 microcoulombs here. There will be 20 microcoulombs here. The whole system is at rest in an inertial frame. The resultant force on the charged particle at A has the magnitude. Whole system is at rest in inertial frame. What do you mean by inertial frame? Inertial frame is that frame of reference where the acceleration is equal to 0. Either it's going with uniform velocity or is at rest. So if you are sitting in an inertial frame and observing, this is an inertial frame and observing, that frame is not at all accelerating. So entire system is also at rest or in uniform is at rest, given the whole system is at rest. The entire system is at rest. If the entire system is at rest, the net force on the entire system should be, due to whichever forces, we don't know the forces, the net force should be equal to 0 if the entire system is at rest. If the net force is 0, the resultant force on the charged particle at A has a magnitude. The resultant force on A should also be 0. The resultant force on B should also be 0. The resultant force on C should also be 0. Resultant forces may be there. This might be, this 20 microcoulomb might be attracting here, attracting this repelling this 20 microcoulombs maybe, and this rod also might be exerting some force. The gravity also might be exerting some force. But all the forces together, net force, it should be equal to 0 because the system is at rest, and every particle in the system is also at rest. You need to find out if a particle is at rest. You need to understand, the mistake you do is force is equal to 0. No, force is not equal to 0. Net force or resultant force should be 0. There may be any number of forces. There may be any number of forces, but net force should be 0. There may be any number of forces, but net force should be 0. Let us solve the next question. If force F1 acts on a particle so as to accelerate it from rest to a velocity v, the force F1 is then replaced by F2, which decelerates it to rest. So what you thinking here, when you read a question, what is the examiner expecting from you, from this question? If force F1 acts on a particle, so suppose if the particle mass is not changing, assume a particle's mass doesn't change given a particle. So F1 should be equal to ma1. So V should be equal to, it starts from rest. So U plus CD, U is 0. So A1 T1. So that V should be equal to A1 T1. And similarly, after that, the particle is again going to rest. So V is equal to U plus AT. V is 0. So U is actually V here. So V minus A2 T2 0. So V is equal to A2 T2. You might be thinking, both forces should be equal. Then only the particle which got accelerated should also get decelerated. You need to understand one thing. It just has to come to rest. No information is given in how much time the particle should come to rest. You can apply huge amount of force and accelerate it, and in a very short period of time it goes to velocity v, and slow opposite force you apply and slowly it comes to rest after a long time. Time frame is not given here, how much time it should take. If time is given, we can be more clear about the information about the forces. Time is not given. So here the velocity is equal to A1 T1 in the first case, that velocity is equal to A2 T2 in the second case. So that means A1 T1 is equal to A2 T2. That means what? If acceleration is 1 is high, A1 greater than A2, that means force 1 greater than force 2, then T1 should be less than T2. The time for which the particle takes to go to velocity v will be less in the first case. If this is one condition, if A1 is less than A2, then T1 is greater than T2. That's it. It will take more time to come to rest. So if there is no particular relation between F1 and F2, F1, in case both are happening at the same time, F1 might be equal to F2. That means A1 is equal to A2. If times are different, accelerations are different. If accelerations are different, times are different. If accelerations are equal, time should be equal. That means what? F1 must be equal to F2. Is it necessary? Not required. If F1 must be equal to F2 means both the time should also be equal. In equal amount of time, if the question is asked as equal amount of time, then we can say F1 must be equal to F2. Time thing is not given here. Not required. F1 may be equal to F2. F1 may be equal to F2. Then third option, F1 must be unequal to F2. Not required. If times are equal, F1 might be equal to it. So the option is F1 may be equal to. Not necessarily compulsorily it should be equal to. Let us go to the next question. This is a good quality question here. Good quality. It is a bit tricky. You need to find out. This is where you will understand the importance of free body diagrams. Two objects A and B are thrown upwards simultaneously with the same speed. The mass of A is greater than the mass of B. So two bodies, A and B, is thrown upwards with the same speed. Okay. The mass of A is greater than B. So MA is greater than MB. Suppose that air exerts a constant equal force of resistance on the two bodies. When the body is going upward, air is exerting a force constant and resistance. Resistance means when the ball is going upward, the resistance is towards downwards because air is resisting it. There will be downward force due to air. F resistance, call it F resistance. Same force. This F resistance is equal in both the cases. And the two bodies. Constant and equal force. Constant. Let F1. Equal also. Question is asked. The two bodies will reach the same height. A will go higher than B. B will go higher than A. Any of the three may happen depending on the speed with which the objects are thrown. So sometimes when we don't know concepts, we think, we don't know clearly. So the question answer may be any of the above three may happen depending on the speed with which the objects are thrown. Not actually. So you find out in a simple case, if suppose resistance is not there, we'll find out V square is equal to U square plus 2AS. So V is 0 at the final maximum height. 0 is equal to U square plus 2 into minus G into S is H. So this minus U square is equal to minus 2GH. So H is equal to U square by 2G. This is a simple maximum height equation. In case if air resistance is not there, the answer is both will go and reach the same height. The answer is simple because for both of them initial speed is same, so U square is same, so 2 is a constant. So G is same for both of them. Acceleration due to gravity is constant for all bodies irrespective of their mass. So the maximum height is equal for both the balls in case there is no air resistance. But here the picture is different. Air resistance has come into picture. You have to solve it. Don't try to solve with your mind what will happen maybe. Just try to solve with free body diagram and in equation. You will be able to understand the situation far better. Let us see this question. Last question of this video, but be careful in understanding this question. So now let me draw the free body diagram. So when the ball is going up, the forces acting are mg and F is mag, resistance is Fr. Both are going downwards on this ball Fr. For the B ball, mbg and Fr. So what is the net force on, what is the net acceleration? Find out the acceleration here, because we know U is same in the given case also, but there will be change in G because G effective will change because of resistance force. Let us try to find out this one. Net force on block A is equal to mass into acceleration of the first body. So mass A into acceleration A is equal to, in first case, is equal to net force. What is net force? Fr plus mag. What is acceleration in case 1? Fr plus mag divided by ma. In the similar way, what is acceleration on case 2? B. Fr is same plus mbg divided by mb. What is AA by AB? What is AA by AB? If we divide it both of them, Fr plus mag divided by ma, Fr plus mbg divided by mb goes upwards. Now you see, if you multiply and get the answer, I am trying to get more proper understanding of this equation. Frmb plus MAMBG divided by FRMA plus MAMBG. So carefully try to understand this term and this term is same in both the equation. FR same, then which value will be higher? Given mass of A is higher than B, that means AA by AB is proportional to MB by MA. MA is higher, so A will be lower. That means because MA is higher, this fraction is less than 1, if this fraction is less than 1, that means A is less than AB. So if you directly understand the question as H is inversely proportional to U square by 2G, G effective, that means H is inversely proportional to acceleration. Because A is less, HA will be more. Because acceleration in first case A block is less, maximum height attained by A block will be higher. Acceleration in B is high, means height attained by B will be lower. So the maximum height attained by A will be high. Thank you. This is the continuation. You can watch the remaining 4 problems in the continuation video. Thank you.